Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, Rosie, and the Conduit team. We're so thrilled to be here, and thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. I'm really, really honored to be speaking with all of you. And, well, I'm Mauricio. I'm one of the co-founders of Hero. HeroCircle.app is the first platform for citizens around the world to fund the work of climate activists so that they have a stable income. So I'm really thrilled to be speaking about many of these topics tonight. We're all here tonight in this room because we want change. We want to care for the planet, and we want to find ways to keep supporting your work. So we're here for you. At the end of the panel, we will have a space to take a couple of questions from the audience. And also, I want to invite you to a book signing that we will have on the second floor. And you're more than welcome to stay for some drinks. So we hope you really enjoy our conversation here. So let's go straight to it. Tori, Greta, Daphne, Dominique, Vivian, thank you so much for being here and for the work that you do. I want to start with a brief introduction from each one of you. I want to know where you're from and why did you become an activist. So we can start with you, Tori.
Thank you, Mauricio. Hi, everyone. My name is Tori Tsui. I am a climate justice activist, and I am from Hong Kong. The fight for climate justice for me is an intersectional one by nature, and as a Hong Konger, the fight for political freedom can never, ever be compromised in the face of climate justice, and that for me is why I am here tonight.
Daphne.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daphne Frias, and I am from Harlem, New York. I am so honored to be here with you all tonight. For me, this space within the climate movement is really about letting the voices of my community speak through me. I truly believe that there are no such things as voiceless people. It's just people who haven't had the ability to have the proper vehicle for their voices to be amplified and heard. Just because you can't hear them doesn't mean they aren't speaking. And for me, I really want to make sure that all of my communities are represented within this movement. As a proud disabled Latina, I don't see our voices often enough within this space. And I hope that my work fights to change that and make sure that we get represented within this movement, because we truly are on the front lines and we need to be able to listen to our frontline communities. So thank you.
Vivian.
Hello, how are you? My name is Ati Gunavi Vivian. I have a long name. Viviam Villafaña Izquierdo, and I belong to an indigenous community. My community is called Arhuacos. We live in northern Colombia. And when people ask me that kind of question, I used to say, okay, I became an activist since 2020 when I was sailing. I was trying to cross the Atlantic to assist to SB. But the truth is, when we belong to an indigenous community and we start realizing that the way that we understand the world is related to responsibility, I think we became an active part of this process and an active role in the society. And yeah, that's it. I think that's the moment when I became an activist, when I realized that I was part of an indigenous community.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I am from Sweden. I am a climate justice activist. I think I became an activist just because I saw that something needs to be done by someone, and then I realized that I'm someone who can do something. I just couldn't understand how this existential crisis was ignored by basically everyone around me. Then I got involved.
My name is Dominique Palmer. I am a climate justice activist, and I focus on intersectional climate action. So that is making sure that climate policy and the action that we are demanding doesn't leave anyone behind, particularly marginalized communities, and focus on the fact that this crisis is so inherently linked with inequalities, and inequalities fuel the climate crisis, but also that means that there will be people who are disproportionately impacted by it. And so I focus on that, and I also focus on harnessing the power of music and the creative arts to engage, educate, and empower people for climate action.
Great. Thank you for sharing each of your stories and motivations. And most of those stories also have been now shared in some new books that we're really excited to celebrate tonight. Tori, I want to start with you because you recently launched your book, It's Just Not You. And I want to know first, why the name and what is it about?
Yeah, thank you. So you can probably gather from the title that many of us experience some strong emotions from the climate crisis. For context, the tagline is how to navigate eco-anxiety and the climate crisis. It's not just you. And it's a book about community solutions. It's a book about community first and foremost, but it's also about challenging the misconceptions around the mental health and the climate crisis, that it's an individual failing. Far too often, most of our emotions get relegated as eco-anxiety, and then through that, we are told that it is our responsibility for dealing with those emotions. But this book is a space to really understand that this is a system that is making people both mentally unwell and making the planet unwell, and it calls for system change solutions. To me, I always say with my friends and other people around me that the fossil fuel industry is what gives me eco-anxiety, not my own mind. And that as a result, we need to be pushing for accountability and removing their authority and power to make decisions about the future of the planet.
Cool. Greta, you recently also launched the climate book last year, a collection of short essays of more than 100 experts. So I want to know a bit more about how was the process? Like, how did you bring all these stories together? And what is the main message that you want to give through this book?
I mean, there are many reasons why I decided to create this book, but probably the main reason was to somehow be able to use the platform I, for some reason, have. And then I could gather some people to tell the story of the climate crisis from many different perspectives, because the climate crisis is a story that must be told everywhere by everyone who can, because it is an existential crisis. And yeah, it was a very long process, but we got there eventually. Yeah, that's basically not very interesting, but yeah.
Great. What I love about this panel is that each one of you brings a very unique perspective to the movement, right? And I think that's what we need, this intersectional action and diverse voices within the movement. So I want to know from each one of you, what do you consider to be the main challenge ahead? And also, what brings you joy and hopefulness? Because we also need a bit more of that too in the movement. So I want to start with Daphne.
Yeah, I think our greatest challenge is that we are not absolutely infatuated with our planet. It is our one home and our one place to live. And I think that we unfortunately still have an extremely extractive relationship with it and take it for granted so very often. And I think it isn't until we fall absolutely in love with the beauty that this planet has to offer that we will be wholly and unequivocally committed to saving it. And I think that love is something we all share up here. Many of us in this room share that as well. And my hope is that through our work, through our words, we can help other folks fall in love with it as well. I always say that my work focuses on storytelling and words are the building blocks of revolutions. With your words, anything and everything is possible. And with our words, we also connect with each other and build communities. And I think that that is what brings me joy, the community that we have here on this panel, the community that we have with all of you. I may not know a lot about all of you, but I know that you care about the planet. And that is enough for me to know that we love each other. And I think that that joy is infectious. And it is the pandemic I wish we had. I wish we had a pandemic of joy. Because joy and love is one of our greatest acts of resistance. When we come together and embrace joy and embrace the love of our planet, anything is possible. The fossil fuel industry is completely devoid of joy. I think that's why they're so angry all the time. Maybe if they loved each other more than they love their money, they'd be a lot happier. I mean, I certainly would be. So yeah, that brings me so much joy to know that one day, 1 week, 1 year, 1 month, if I can't pick up the mantle of the climate crisis, there are so many other amazing activists across the world who can do it as well. We don't have to stand alone in this work, in this fight, in this effort. There are so many amazing people doing this work together, and knowing that helps me sleep a little bit better at night.
Great. Bibi?
Now I'm going to switch Spanish.
Okay, she wants to do, you're gonna play it hard for me, okay?
I know,
So
I know.
now I'm turning into my first live translation, so bear with me, please.
Bueno, yo creo que de las cosas más retadoras dentro del movimiento ambiental, si va bien la pregunta, yo creo que es el tema del trabajo en red. Yo creo que muchas veces estamos en iniciativas comunes, esfuerzos comunes, sin generar tampoco esta red de trabajo conjunta, y creo que el individualismo puede pesar mucho en ese sentido.
Okay, so I think one of the main challenges is to build this network and community of people and not falling into individualism and trying to, think that we can solve the climate crisis on our own.
Ya, y creo también que el reto de eso es que que el esfuerzo hacia un solo lado en diferentes formas puede restar tiempo también, y esfuerzo, y económicamente hablando creo que también puede ser complejo, y trabajar en conjunto también implica superar estas ideas del individualismo de si no lo hago yo, no lo puede hacer otra persona, y si alguien lo hace mejor, yo lo puedo hacer mejor. Es decir, esas ideas que también nos dividen en gran medida.
Okay, so I think we need to center our efforts, collectively. Otherwise, we're just wasting a lot of our energy trying to do individual actions. And I think the only way to move forward is if we come together and align, because that's also something that separates us. Like, we tend to think that these are the best solutions, and then we're all trying to solve it in our own way. Great. How did I do it? Yeah, really good. Yeah, okay, good. Domi.
So for me, I believe that the climate crisis is a crisis of connection, a lack of connection to our planet and to each other, as was mentioned very well on here on the panel. I think that one of the biggest challenges that we face overall is shifting priority in this extractive system that we have, and in this climate crisis that is really built on this extraction and exploitation of our natural resources and people and colonialism, is the priority of profit over all else, over people and planet. And that is at the heart of so many active decisions that are made every single day to continue putting us further into climate breakdown. And that complete shift in priority, I believe, is the biggest challenge. And actually realizing that we are nature defending itself, and there's so much to be learned from communities who are environmental defenders, from frontline communities who've been doing this for so long in that way, who do truly see themselves as nature defending itself. And for me, one thing that brings me joy, there's actually a quote that I love that says, "If I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution." And I actually take that quite literally. So I love the fact that through some of the work that I do, I can harness the power of music and the creative arts to unite people and bring people together. And I think it is something that is beautiful. And I think that in this crisis of connection, something which connects people so deeply and can truly change people's hearts and engage a new audience in the crisis, I think that's something that's really beautiful that we can harness and that we can use. And for me, I talk about climate joy, and it may seem like those two words can't exist in the same sentence, but when I refer to it, it's mainly about how we can cultivate joy in this time and how we can build hope together. And that hope is something that we build with each other and in community, and that there is still, like for me, if I was not hopeful about creating a safe future and that we can still do it, then I wouldn't be speaking to all of you now, and I wouldn't be an activist. And for me, it's something that really guides me forward. And this revolutionary love for our planet and for each other and for our communities is something that I find a lot of joy in. And it's something really beautiful that we need. Community really guides us through, and our friends, and this love and this joy. And it's something that definitely should not be underestimated.
Tori.
I'm going to keep it really simple. The fossil fuel industry has to go. And I'm gonna bring it back to the UK context. I actually have some of my comrades in the room with me tonight from Stop Rosebank. I think, as someone who talks a lot about community, about like what it means to take climate action, what it means to be in community, I really do believe a lot of that, but I think we need to also be pragmatic, and I think that, for me, that also means no new oil and gas. Like, this is a climate emergency, and the UK government is still trying to open a new oil and gas field in the North Sea called Rosebank, which will equate to the same carbon emissions as the 28 poorest countries in the world. It is a complete atrocity and affront to climate justice. It is not going to bring us anywhere nearer to the so-called energy security that our government says they're fighting for. Most of that oil and gas will be exported, about 80% of it, as with most oil and gas in the North Sea. We cannot be doing this. The International Energy Agency says that we can't have any new oil and gas. Like, this is literally killing people as we speak. And I think as much as I try and build a lot of my activism on love and hope and joy, I'm fucking devastated. And I don't understand when people aren't either. And when you see everything that's been happening around the world, and you see people literally fleeing their homes because their buildings are on fire, or because, there are flash floods, like how can we continue with business as usual? And I implore each and every one of you, after this evening is over, to look up Rosebank oil field and to talk about it, because I think we can say all the nice things, as we do as climate activists. We go up on stage, we say the nice things that make people feel happy and comfortable, and like, oh yeah, we're doing our bit too. No, we can all do more, and it shouldn't be down to us to be fighting and protesting when we can, risking our futures and our lives. So please stop Rosebank, look it up, join our movement. I'm always a bit angry and tearful when I speak about this stuff, but I promise we're really nice people. Please stop Rosebank. No more oil and gas, no more fossil fuels, if we are to maintain a habitable future at the very least.
And what brings you joy, Tori?
Oh, whiplash. Sorry. I'm going to be honest. Like, some of the people who are sitting at the front of this room, some of the faces bring me so much fucking joy. We wouldn't be able to do this work if we didn't have each other. And I really believe that the climate movement holds you in your darkest days, but it also holds you accountable to be better. And these are the people who push for me to be better. Not because they want the same things as me. They do, obviously, but because they know I can be better. And I think being better also means using every single opportunity I have to say, stop Rosebank. So I'm sorry if that didn't really answer your question, but that brings me joy.
Word. Greta, what about you?
Is this on? It's on? Oh, well. Does this work? Yeah. I mean, we are facing so many challenges, aren't we? Everywhere we look. And I think one of the main challenges is to actually understand that fact and to understand the root causes of these challenges and how they are interconnected and how they amplify each other. And we need to understand that we are not winning this fight. We are moving in the wrong direction. The people who have the power in this world are those who are set on destroying it. We need to call that out. As people have been saying, the planet is not dying, the planet is being killed, and we know who these people are. I think a challenge is to understand that and to not try to always look for silver linings, but actually look at the reality, how it is, and realize that we are moving in the wrong direction and we cannot continue down this path because that will kill us. Where I find joy. I think that hope is not something that is given to you. It is something that you need to create. And that's what, I don't know about all of the people in this room, but I know that some of us are at least trying to create that hope. We are not going to wait for others to do something. We are going to go out and do that ourselves because we are tired of waiting and we don't have any more time to wait. That is creating hope. And what fills me with joy is knowing that there are others who share the same values and who are also fighting for the same causes. Because without that activism community, we wouldn't have been able to do anything. So that brings me joy.
So yesterday I was reading from Antonio Gutierrez, UN Chief Executive General, saying that we have passed and ended the global warming era and that we have entered the global boiling era, which can feel pretty scary, and I understand why sometimes it's hard to find joy when you're hitting with that in the news and in your work every day. But this makes activism one of the most important jobs of our time. If this work that you all do across the world with other amazing activists is not done, then who will hold politicians accountable? So most often, this job is not being paid. So I want to get your thoughts on, do you think that this needs to change? Why are other careers across the globe paid and we have normalized that? And I think it's time that we start normalizing that we should be paying for the most important job of our time. So what is your take on that? I want to start with you, Tori.
I think it's a really nuanced question because I do feel like so much of the work that we do as activists is grassroots and voluntary, and I feel like there is a spirit to that voluntary effort which avoids the risk of our movements being co-opted and capitalized on, which is really, really important to preserve. At the same time, the nuanced world that we live in is that we live in a capitalist system where everything costs money. Like even being sick and, unhoused costs you money. It's grotesque. Anyway, I go on about that for days. But the important thing here is that we all should be able to live in dignity. And so many activists I know do not live in dignity. So many activists that I know are unhoused. So many of them are unwell. So many of them can't even afford basic human needs, and that's atrocious and needs to change. I was told this evening that when the sort of guest list was being put together that there are a lot of people with money in this room, and I'm going to be really frank, give your money away. Give it away. None of us on this stage earn very much money at all. If anything, we probably give most of our money away as well. And we do this because we really fucking care about this crisis and what's happening to the planet. And I just really want to ask the people who have the money, who have the ability to move it into different places, what good is a world with money if it's dying and if people are dying too? Just really think about that. Like, the time to act is now. Like, you really can't be waiting anymore. So open up your wallets and give your money away to climate movements. That's all I gotta say.
Daphne?
In the spirit of the mics are having a moment today. Here you go. In the spirit of storytelling, I'm gonna ask you to bear with me as I tell a story. The last time I was with these beautiful people was in Glasgow, Scotland. And it was one of the most radically life-changing experiences I've had the pleasure of being a part of. But what I didn't know was that my body was infested with stage 4 cancer. A year after that, I began my treatment to beat my cancer. And I come to you all cancer-free. Three weeks after my last treatment, I flew to London and participated in my first event since finishing treatment. None of my doctors told me I should get on the flight and come here. But I knew that I had no other choice because time was ticking. And I heard that clock over and over in my head as I was going through treatment, not knowing if I would ever see these people again or ever make it out the other side. But I knew that the love that we have for each other and the love that we have for our planet was enough and was gonna get me through that treatment. And when I started my treatment, I had to open a GoFundMe because I live in the most beautiful state of America that doesn't provide healthcare for its people. And I opened a GoFundMe to cover my treatment. And this amazing community of activists uplifted and supported me through that treatment. But that shouldn't have to happen. That shouldn't be the case. And if flying to London 3 weeks after my last chemo treatment doesn't tell you how much I love doing this work, I don't know what else could. My greatest fear when I got sick was that no one would ever want to listen to me again. That this movement would pass me by and I would never have a voice in it again. And being here on this stage has been so fulfilling, but mostly because it is time that we support our community. I think a lot of what activism is it makes others feel good at the expense of our trauma. We constantly have to sit on these stages and rehash some of our most traumatic moments so that you can go home and say, oh, at least someone's doing something about the climate crisis. What are you doing about the climate crisis? At the end of the day, our money is going to burn in the fire if we don't do something about this crisis. Your money is not going to save you. Flying to Mars is not going to save you. What is going to save us is by redistributing our wealth, investing in mutual aid, keeping each other safe, understanding that community is our refuge, is our home, and that when I couldn't take up the mantle of this crisis because I had my own internal crisis, all of these amazing people could. But the only way we can continue to do that is if you fund us, if you support us. And I think that as a activist of color, I am the primary earner for my family. I pay our rent, I pay our groceries, I pay our utilities, I pay everything. I was doing that in the middle of my chemotherapy when I had no money. And it is absolutely horrifying for me to come into spaces like this with immense wealth and then go back to my home that is falling apart with mold, with unhealthy conditions, with barely a roof over our head, and have to grapple with that incredible disparity. How is it that I get to be in rooms with some of the most powerful and wealthy people that can throw me compliments to last days and days, but your compliments don't pay the bills? Your compliments don't save our planet. Your money does. And your money going to the right places in divested patterns coming to community is what's going to save us. So when you go home tonight, instead of scrolling on Amazon and contributing to more extractive, let's go to Mars type of conversations. Why do we need to go to Mars when we already have the most beautiful planet at our fingertips, right? Give us your money, because I probably... Listen, some of the wealthiest people I know are unabashed about their money. They just don't know what to do with it, and they just talk about it all the time. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna talk about your money and tell you to give it to us.
And you can guarantee we will give it all away to community members.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, and we're here for you all the step of the way, and we won't stop until that sense of community becomes the global norm. And thank you for inspiring us to keep going and pushing and for being an example. Bibi?
Sorry, I think I need to hear again the question.
Basically, you're doing one of the most important jobs of our time. I know it's critical for your community. So what's your take on the need to get activists paid around the world to do this job?
Again in Spanish. A ver, yo creo que el tema del reconocimiento del pago o no de un trabajo pasa por el reconocimiento precisamente de si ese trabajo que se está haciendo es útil o no. Genera algún
One
tipo
sec,
de...
just to... I learned my lesson from the first question, so we'll do it in parts. I think the first point is that you have to determine what's the value of that job that you're doing, if it's valuable or not.
Y precisamente ese valor pasa por entender que si el trabajo que se hace, en términos de tiempo, esfuerzo y demás, no va a aterrizar mucho en ese sentido, ¿qué genera para el lugar en el que estamos viviendo? Yo creo que...
Okay, one sec. So then you have to determine, is the value and the energy that you're putting into that generating value? Is it generating value for the community and the people that benefit from that work?
Y yo estoy muy de acuerdo con que esta crisis es una crisis que pasa por considerar el tema de la existencia, es una crisis existencial.
This is a crisis that it's related to our own our own existence.
Y yo creo que el financiamiento de las propuestas que se están generando desde nuestra perspectiva es una garantía también de que los proyectos y procesos que se hacen en comunidad es la manera de redistribuirlo, como lo dijo Daphne, como ya lo dijo Tori, lo dijo Greta, lo dijo Dominique, una forma de redistribuir ese dinero fortaleciendo los procesos comunitarios, porque ahí es parte de la respuesta a la crisis que enfrentamos.
So I think if people are benefiting from our community and our work and our time, that should be compensated, especially because that same money is going to our communities.
That's it?
That's it?
Siempre olvido esto, obviamente es importante, lo siento.
Wait, I always forget this, and it's very important, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. Latin American Youth Climate Scholarships ¡Woo! Es parte de generar esa respuesta. 12 jóvenes déjame hacer un poquito de extensión. 12 jóvenes escogidos que son de América Latina, pertenecientes a comunidades indígenas, comunidades negras, y se identifican como personas de color. Hacen parte del grupo seleccionado este año para que participen en espacios políticos. Y, digamos, ese es en resumen, pero ahí no queda el impacto. El impacto es, se habla de estos espacios, se habla de espaldas a las comunidades, y esa es una forma efectiva también de lograr que esos jóvenes, las personas que se han escogido, logren establecer sus posiciones, sus soluciones sobre todo, en espacios de poder como ese. Y yo creo que Likes es también parte de esa respuesta y una forma de darle vuelta al histórico comunidades vulnerables, y nosotros discutimos sobre las comunidades vulnerables y no hay presencia de estas comunidades vulnerables.
Wow, okay.
I know.
Go ahead. Okay. Just can you please repeat the name of the organization? So her organization.
Thank you.
And the name?
Latin American Youth Climate Scholarships. Puedes resumirlo como LIGHTS.
Okay, LIGHTS. It stands for LIGHTS. So they are currently in the process to take indigenous communities, diverse communities, Black communities, and people of color to the negotiation tables at COP28. Yeah. So basically with the idea that no one should be deciding on behalf of these communities. It's not, we will decide on behalf of communities and then let you know. And actually, we want to take our solutions. We want them to be heard, and we want to have a space in this negotiation table. So it's crucial to get support for these communities to have their voices heard in these global stages.
Can I just add?
Yes, please.
She also said, everyone talks about vulnerable communities, but doesn't include vulnerable communities in the conversation. Does not let these people speak for themselves. And she didn't say this part, but I will add it for her. That supporting indigenous communities like Vivi's communities is climate reparations. We are constantly taking from the practices of indigenous people in order to create climate solutions, but we don't allow those communities themselves to be part of these conversations. So if you want to feel better about yourself, support indigenous communities and pay us.
Yeah.
I also want to add something that Vivi didn't say, but Vivi and I met in Colombia after me and my friend Clara actually sailed to go to COP26, and COP26 failed. Well, no, it was COP25, sorry. It was relocated to Madrid, and Clara and I found ourselves in Colombia, not really sure what to do. So we started a project with Vivi called Sail for Climate Action to take youth to the SBs, and then the pandemic happened. And fast forward all of these years, now Vivi is standing on this stage and asking for people to support this new iteration of this project, the Latin American Youth Scholarship, who are funding incredible, like literally incredible activists to get to Dubai. And it's a phenomenal project that needs to be supported. So please go talk to Vivi, and Clara, maybe you can wave. If you want to support, please talk to them.
Yep. Thank you.
Greta, why do you think activists deserve to be paid? And have a mic.
I don't have much to add. I think most of this has been said already. But what it boils down to is that way too much responsibility falls on people who shouldn't have to be doing this. And the ones who have the possibilities and the power and the resources are in most cases doing nothing. So I think that redistribution is a key to addressing the climate emergency. It's absolutely necessary. And also we need not only, of course, money. We need money, of course, but money will not save the world. We need more than that too. We need to think beyond that, and we need to think holistically and long term. And we need everyone to get involved in the climate justice movement, because in order to change everything, we need everyone. Everyone has different possibilities, and of course, so yeah, start with what you can do. And for many people, that is to give away your money.
Domi?
I will be brief. I feel like a lot of good stuff has already been said. In summary, open your wallets. Redistribution to climate groups and organizations in those frontline communities is so crucial. And I've seen firsthand a lot of young people who face financial barriers, who come from working class backgrounds, who are poor, and who are doing completely 100% voluntary work and struggling so much and are so vital and end up burning out completely because they can't get their basic needs met. And that is the reality that a lot are facing. And this is what causes this situation where it means that some groups of people who are able to support themselves can be involved in activism and some can't, and that's just not how it should be. And also, when it comes to young people, look at just how much this youth movement has done with the small amount of resources and funding that it has had. Honestly, there is a statistic, I can't remember it, but, oh, I've just remembered it. The statistic, 0.76% of all climate funding went to youth groups and organizations. And that is what we have to use. That's what we have to deal with too. And often young people have so much pressure placed on their shoulders and told that you are the future, you are going to protect the planet, it's all up to you. And yet so much pressure is put on young people without the resources to do it. And this is just so crucial. So the funding is needed, redistribute funding and resources, but also we need to talk about the redistribution of power and the connections and actually channeling that into the youth movement. And in order to sustain this movement of incredible people that are truly fighting for a better planet for all of us, they need to be adequately supported. And that is one very, very simple action that a lot of people can do.
Well, what I love about my friends is that you are honest, transparent, and pretty straightforward always. And no, but I think you're, that's one of the things that you're not afraid to say. Say it as it is, and I think you're taking so much truth to power, politicians, political leaders, and we're really so thankful for the work that you do. If you want to learn more about Hero, herocircle.app, we have created the first platform to fund this incredible work, and we have done it in a way that citizens around the world can join and support this incredible journey that we're all in together. And with that, I want to thank you so much for all of you for being here, for taking your time. We are here because we care. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just like listening to myself a lot. So, as you can see on this panel, I'm the only visibly disabled person. I know a couple of us here have invisible disabilities, but in terms of physically apparent ones, I'm the only one. I'm tired of that. That's very, very emotionally draining. Lauren, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. So, yesterday, was it yesterday? I don't even know what days are anymore. Yeah. Yesterday, I had the privilege of attending my first protest since finishing treatment. And we, if you weren't sure what you should be doing, we were stopping Rosebank. We protested to stop Rosebank, and Lauren has been so lovely in making sure that this was the most accessible protest for myself. Making sure I had taxis, making sure I even had a public bathroom to use, thinking about me as a whole holistic human being, and That happens literally never, ever, ever in this movement, in advocacy, in organizing spaces. And I'm tired of having to navigate that all by myself. If you claim that you're an ally to disabled individuals, learn what it's like to live in a world that is not just made for you to thrive. And the more that people are conscious of this, the more that we can be in this movement. People ask me all the time, why don't I see more disabled people in climate organizing and organizing in general? Because the world is ableist. And that ableism proliferates to closed doors. And the more that we stop focusing just on our own needs and focus on the needs of others, the more I don't have to be alone on these stages in terms of my physical disability. I want to see so many of us in all the places and all the tables. I'm tired of seats at the table. I want auditoriums full of people who look like me. And together we can make that happen.
It has been a true honor to share your stories, to showcase your work. Thank you to everyone for coming, and I want to invite everyone to join us on the second floor for a book signing, and then you can stay up for drinks and gather around. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to the panel.